Welcome to Modern Art Blitz. I am your host, Matt Gleason. We've got an hour ahead of us talking contemporary art and its ancillary benefits for you. My first guest, Isabell Avila. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes.
Almost? Avila?
Avila.
Avila. Yes. All right. Welcome to Modern Art Blitz.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no. I'm thrilled. So, we were talking earlier, you're an alumni of
LACSA. Yeah, I went to LA County High School for the Arts.
And where'd you go to college?
After LACSA, I went to PCC for a couple years. But ultimately, I ended up at Art Center, College of Design, and I graduated with a BFA in photography and imaging from there.
Okay, great. In fact, we're looking at a photograph now. Now, do you consider yourself a conceptual artist?
That's a good question. I obviously I have a lot of concepts of how I approach my work, but in a lot of the formal aspects, I don't always consider myself a conceptual artist because I use photography in a way where I'm really emphasizing the documentary effect of it.
Okay. And there's an aesthetic to that.
Yeah.
So let's look at, what do we have here? We're out in the woods.
Yeah. So this is a photograph of my grandmother, or it's a photograph of my grandmother. And basically, I printed out an old photograph of my grandmother and I stretched it out and I placed it.
When you say stretch, you mean like in Photoshop,
yeah,
right? Okay.
I used Photoshop and I stretched it out. It's basically about my family history and a lot of like my family identity, mostly on the native side, being obscured and not passed down. So,
you mean the traditions?
Just the identity. Like when I would ask my family, like, oh, like where we're from and things like that, they kind of, they would have this umbrella, like we're Mexican American, Spanish Indian mix and things like that. But when I would ask more specifically as to like where my family came from, like I had a grand aunt that did the family tree and it was only from like Spain. Like she just, it was like the native side, which is the local side, was like purposely like obscured. It wasn't passed down. It wasn't looked upon.
It was just ignored.
It was totally ignored. It was, purposefully.
Was it purposefully in this generation, or was it a few generations back just decided to just not talk about that?
It was a few generations back, which obviously eliminated a lot of information.
So your grandmother carried a lot of this with her, and it never got passed down.
Yeah, my grandmother, great grandfather. I have pictures. They obviously were, native. My great grandfather worked on building the railroads out here, and they had a program for native people where they would be employed to build the railroads. So I need to do my genealogy when I have time. I've just been so busy, but so I'm just kind of fascinated on that side of my family history that has been obscured.
So you put grandma out in the woods. Help us out here.
Yeah, so basically, this image just represents like this, sort of obscured sort of identity. But so this image of my grandmother, it's a photo, and on the bottom, there's actually a signature where she's signed her name, and it says Preta, and I guess in Spanish that means like dark woman or darky or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like on the photograph on the bottom, it says that, and then it's like scratched out, and then it's like says Dolores on top of it. So there's like all these like family issues of race. In my family, because my grandmother was a product of her mom's second marriage to an Indian man.
Okay.
And so she has these half brothers and sisters that were more like European, Spanish. So I just find that really interesting. So I took this picture and I placed it, actually I'm going to grad school over at Cal State Long Beach, and on the campus there's a sacred site And there's an area where it's dedicated to people who've passed. They have ancestor poles, and so my grandmother passed, so I sort of went to the space, and I took this picture in that space where that's dedicated to people who've recently passed or who passed. So it's sort of,
There's a long history of the photography of photography. Do you see yourself in that kind of art historical lineage, or are you just starting raw with like working on content?
I mostly start with the content, and I am interested in exploring more of using old photographs and repurposing them or rephotographing them in certain ways. But yeah, I like with Prince, Richard Prince, and I'm not necessarily like.
You don't see yourself in that school. You're not.
Yeah,
you're not, okay.
I don't see myself in that school.
None of that. All right. Well, we've got a lot of your art. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Is this two artworks here?
These are two different images. Yeah. So
you're supposed to give us 5. Instead, you say, "I'll give you 2," but it fills up the screen. This looks good.
I squeezed in a couple.
So now one's a book. Did you just find a book in the library? What's going on here?
I found this book like at a yard sale, and I bought it, and it's a book about like the history of California. And it's a very old book. It's like.
And I'm assuming it was totally unbiased.
Right. Yeah. So it's an old book. It's extremely biased, and so I'm just looking at this history of California and what we know of, what we're taught through institutions such as educational institutions and even religious institutions, and looking at some of these stories and how they're passed down and what perspectives are being passed down. So in this book, it's totally, I think it describes, there's an image of a Native person right here,
yeah.
And in the description it says a degenerate, and so
okay.
And this is this opened up the page to the San Gabriel mission, which is the local mission.
And
here.
Is that the San Gabriel mission in paper?
No, that's a different mission. I can't remember which one, but I found that. I go to this coffee shop in Pasadena up the street from me, and I happened to, it was a blessing because I just ran into this trash day, and there was a school project because, California kids are still doing these mission projects. Actually, I think recently.
I just read that.
Yeah.
They just said, no more mission project.
Yeah, which is great. It's like having people do little dioramas of Auschwitz or something. I mean, it's just awful. But so I photographed this, how I found it, and it was on the side during trash day. Now,
we're not looking at this as a diptych or anything. No, these are two separate images.
I'm basically just trying to show that I have a series around the missions.
Missions.
All my images, my work is like interrelated, but I have like little subcategories of different series going on. So one is like really looking at the missions and how it's embedded in our cities. Like there's Junipero Serra libraries, stores, streets, like everything's named after this guy who founded the mission system out here, and then just. He was recently canonized as a
Catholic saint.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Yeah, and it's, without thinking or without thought and consideration of how it affected, the locals, Native people here. And I remember my parents taking me to missions as a kid,
this is part of our heritage.
This is part of our heritage,
all of a sudden you find out, it's a part of our heritage, not necessarily one that we should be proud of. All right. Let's go on because we're getting deeper now. We're getting deeper. I'm not trying to avoid this. We're getting deeper. Who's this?
This is Tongva Elder Gloria Arianes, and she's someone that I hold very dear to my heart, and she is, we can do a whole show just on her. I mean, she's a pretty amazing person, longtime activist. She was active in the Chicano movement in the late 60s, early 70s. There's images of her. UCLA has her oral history. And then later on she became really really interested in her Native identity, but you know, she was always told she was, but she sort of overlaps the Chicano and Native American identity. There's that.
Is the Tongva were the original LA people, right?
Yeah, the Tongva are the original.
Even before the city was established by the Spanish settlers.
Yeah, the Spanish called them the Gabrielinos because they sent them to the
San Gabriel mission.
Yeah, so she's a descendant
of the original Tongva people.
Yeah, who went through the mission system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
they didn't all survive.
No, oh no, that's all, bad.
So you've worked in basically portrait photography.
Yeah, I actually work in a lot of portraiture, and
but laden with content.
Yeah, a lot of like activists or people that I find really significant in their communities. I would like to focus in on that, and I have a lot of images of people who have been active in their communities.
But still with a serious aesthetic. I mean, these are great portraits.
Yeah, with a serious aesthetic. And this image...
Was that can I ask if your serious portrait aesthetic did Art Center really push that? Do they push the aesthetic or the concept there?
They push the aesthetic.
Okay.
But I went through the commercial track in Art Center.
Oh, wow.
So at the time when I was there, they didn't have a fine art and commercial.
So that's the for-profit aesthetic.
Yeah, yeah.
But you kind of have this kind of different background to be approaching this stuff then, relative to your academic background.
Yeah, well, Art Center, it kind of solidified that I didn't want to be a commercial artist. I mean, I went through like ups and downs of like, I need to make money, I should do commercial work.
Oh, okay, so that's how you end up there, and then all of a sudden you're like, nah, I gotta get out of here,
Yeah,
you didn't feel
I
right.
didn't wanna...
But you did pick up a lot of tips though, right?
I picked up a ton of tips. I got great, I had some good teachers there, and I am into aesthetics. I don't throw aesthetics out the window. So,
we like that.
One thing I do want to mention about this image is that it will be in one of the PST shows.
Really? You're in a PST show? That's great. PST La La.
Yeah, and so it'll be at the Charles White Gallery, and it's a project space of LACMA.
Is that at USC?
No, it's
Where's Charles White Gallery?
MacArthur Park.
The old Otis. That used to be the Otis College. It's right by MacArthur Park.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great space. Oh yeah.
It's a really cool spot.
Oh, that's a big historic. That's a historic space. Oh, you're going to be
curated by Vincent Ramos.
Wow.
Who did a great job, and so I'm really happy to be.
And what is the show exactly that you're in?
It's called Universal History of Infamy, and it's basically a part of the Universal History of Infamy show that's at LACMA right now.
Okay.
So it's sort of a side project.
Because LACMA uses that as a side gallery.
Yeah.
A satellite gallery, and it's more. They bring in a lot of middle school and high school kids. Art classes. They show them like, look, this is legit art.
Yeah. They do tours and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good space. A lot of history in the city of LA with that space too.
Oh, cool.
So that's a good. I saw a lot of when that was Otis. I saw many. I don't get out to Otis as much. I'm an East Sider. Okay, so
me too.
I could get to MacArthur Park.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the beach. That's it. So, but let's see some more art. Come on. What do we have here? Is this a triptych, or are you trying to get 3 on us now?
I'm trying to get 3 on you guys.
Okay, what do we got here?
So these are 3 individual pieces, but I do want to show them together. They're kind of big pieces. I usually print fairly large, so like 30 by 30, but not too big. So these images all represent particular historical sites in California, native sites. So that are either have been destroyed or in danger of environmental degradation. I mean, you can go on about each individual site and like what the issues are happening on those sites.
Can we get just the art? And can you tell us what each one is?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, the one I'm kind of disoriented as to like what.
Oh, just left to right.
Okay.
From
Okay, so on the left side, these are just like petrified sea worms that came from the Bolsa Chica area in the Huntington Beach area, and so there's there's an effort to preserve a particular, a whole, like the wetlands and the area in this site, and it always seems to be encroached on by developers.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
shocked. I am totally shocked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So every time I visit, it's just.
What about in the middle that I'm blocking now?
Okay. So the one in the middle is from the Pavungna site, and that's on the campus of Cal State Long Beach, where I currently go to school for my grad degree. And basically, there is a reburial there of there was a native reburial there because there was excavation earlier. There's a whole history there, but the head of the American Indian Studies Department, Craig Stone, I had one of his classes, and we were doing a project with clay pottery, native pottery, and we were using clay from Pavungna to make pottery from. So this is some of the clay, and I decided to photograph it as well. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then over here.
And then on the right is I went up north to Winnemem Wintu territory, and they're a tiny tribe, tiny but mighty tribe, and they are really making huge efforts to bring back the salmon to their rivers. And so I participated in one of their ceremonies there, and it was a really beautiful time. And we went camping, and this is just what was around me during camping. It was all this beautiful moss in this area, and I'm like, this area is so beautiful.
Where specifically in California is that?
Oh geez, it's a little further up north from the bay. I'm not familiar.
Neither am I. I'm like
that area.
North
it
of.
was like an hour north.
It goes
from the bay.
San Francisco,
Yeah.
Oakland's this way,
Yeah.
and then you go Berkeley,
Yeah.
and then Seattle. That's all I know.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, I
like-
wrote it down, but the name is slipping from
Yeah.
me right now of the area. Yeah.
But here's the thing: you meet someone from the Bay Area,
Yeah.
they don't know the difference between Pomona and Downey.
Right.
So hey,
There's Mount Shasta. So Mount Shasta is their territory, and then there's the McCloud River. But the actual campsite that I was in, I'm not exactly
Yeah,
sure what
it's like,
called.
yeah.
But it's like Mount Shasta.
Google
That's
Maps.
how
Yeah, I don't
McCloud
know.
River- Yeah.
So Mount Shasta's beautiful.
It's so amazing.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
so
and that's where
beautiful.
California gets most of our water.
Isn't there one of the mountains is a volcano? It's going to
Yeah,
erupt.
Mount Shasta's a
Mount Shasta's going
volcano.
to erupt
Yeah.
one day, right?
Yes.
And adios, NorCal. If the earthquake doesn't get them, the volcano will, right? So the sacred sites are near Mount Shasta, and then near Cal State Long Beach, and Huntington Beach.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are beautiful sites that need to be preserved. And so I think there should be a lot of effort into preservation and really consulting with the community, the Native community, as to what they want, what they envision with these sites. So, I think that these issues are important. And
How big is this series of is it just these 3 images, or do you have more?
I have a few others, but I also, from the sites, I just started. These are really new images, so
You're still working on the series.
Yeah, I'm
then.
still working on it. I just shot these
The
a
debut.
week ago. A week ago.
A week ago.
Yeah.
Wait, you just shot these this week?
A week ago.
Wow. Like these aren't scheduled for a show or anything. You're just working on these now.
I'm just working on these now.
You're
yeah.
working on these now. This is like, man, we're giving previews. This is like 2018 work. Ooh. Okay. So, and how big are these photographs? How big do you intend them to be? Like, were they to be exhibited?
30 by 30 inches. Yeah, I shoot film, so I have to scan them and print them.
Oh no, you shoot film.
I do. I shoot film. I think.
How big's
film,
your camera?
I use a Hasselblad square
You
format.
have a big Hasselblad?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, it's
man.
not that big though.
How big
I
is
mean, it's just
How big's the negative?
It's 2 1/4. 2 1/4.
Oh,
2
okay.
1/4.
That's
yeah. It's
that's
not
still
big.
though. It's a lot
It's
of
not a 4 by
lot of
5.
prep time though.
Not too much.
Because you're a pro. Not a lot of prep time because you're a pro.
Prep time is in the scanning and the printing.
Oh, just
yeah.
it's so weird. You have to make it digital. Do you ever just want to make prints and be like, this is it, no computer involved?
I would love that. Yeah. I hate the computer part.
Then what
so bad.
what compels you is the ability to like control color and quality.
Use the computer.
Yeah, to use a computer. What compels you to use a computer?
the
if you don't?
consistency
Okay.
with the quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you make any series? without a computer or digital or anything involved?
I haven't. I usually just do scans and then I print them. Yeah, I mean, I would like to. I just don't have the time, I guess, to use the darkroom. Plus, I do like how they come out scanned, especially if you do drum scans. They look amazing.
Okay, no, but that's the old school. Just
Yeah.
it takes forever though.
Yeah, everything takes forever, and there's not that.
We need more
much
megabytes
time.
now. Okay, what do we have here? Well, is this now? That glare is not from our studio lighting. Explain the glare. Well, explain the piece and explain the glare.
Yeah, so I took a trip to Arizona a little while ago, and I met up with a few people, and this guy here is Shannon Rivers, and he's Tohono O'odham, and he.
What does Tohono O'odham mean?
A tribe.
Oh, it is Tohono O'odham is the name of the tribe.
Yeah, I hope I pronounced that
What
correctly.
part of Arizona?
On the border of the Mexico-Arizona border. Yeah, and he was gathering medicine, and I was allowed to photograph. Protocol is always to ask permission, so I got permission from him to photograph, and so we're photographing him gathering medicine. And as I was photographing, my camera jammed, and I was really bummed at the time. I was like, oh gosh, my film has got exposed, and oh my gosh, I was so upset. And I developed the negatives, and they had the light exposure on them, and they kind of sat in a box for a little while. And then I just kind of thought about it, and thought about some of the words that he was sharing when my camera started to jam, and he was like, oh, it must have been really strong medicine.
Wow.
It must have been strong medicine and affected everything. So, I thought about it. I'm like, well, it's like a divine intervention here, and I wanted to share that story. And
How big is this print?
Let's see. I have smaller prints. Ideally, I want to print this bigger. I need to do a drum scan of this one, but right now I have like 30 by of it. But I really envision this print. I have it. I've shown it before as loose prints, but I have how I want to show it is slightly different, larger.
Now, what do you know? What plant this is? What medicine plant this is?
Creosote bush.
Yeah.
What
is that? Do you know what it's used for?
I'm not quite sure. I know I think it's burned sometimes, but I don't know exactly. I should know. I mean, we did have it.
And what year was this?
This was maybe a couple years ago or so. Yeah.
So you've traveled. You prefer to, do you take your camera with you everywhere?
I'm not one of those people.
You didn't bring your Hasselblad modern art blitz.
Yeah.
No portraits here.
I'm pretty selective. I mean, just because my camera equipment is really heavy, so like having to carry it everywhere, I like to plan things out and then have it, because it's like lugging an extra 10 pounds or so. Well, because I have my digital, and I shoot my digital prior to shooting film usually.
I know a lot of people who use film use the digital camera as a light meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just take the picture, then you can read everything.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Vote secret. Shop talk. And they still make film though. You could still buy film. You're not worried about them running out, like they're not going to make film anymore.
Right. They still make film. There are limitations. Some films are now obsolete.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
How about everything to develop them with?
Yeah, that's still around, but it's just the selection's going a little narrow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay. So you are, and you're currently.
I'm a grad student over at Cal State Long Beach.
See, so you're a pro, and you're showing. You're in PST. Anybody else in the grad department in PST? You're like, hey,
I think there is. I think there's a couple other people.
Did the teachers get jealous though? Oh God, like they didn't get in. I'm in a Getty sponsored show, Professor. How about you? That's not.
It's a group show. It's not a solo show.
Well, but still, academia loves. Yes, don't get any higher than me. That sort of thing. So good program over there, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Todd Gray was there. Unfortunately, he's retiring, and Mark Riddell, he's there as well, and Rebecca Sittler-Schock. So I've had them as my mentors. Yeah. Great.
Okay, so do we have any more? I think was this the final artwork? I lost count.
Yeah, that's 5.
That was it. Well, Isabel, so again, when is your PST show opening?
In early December.
Early December.
Yeah.
At
the Charles White Gallery.
By MacArthur Park. The old Otis.
Park.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
on Modern
Okay.
Art Blitz.
Thank you so much.
Isabell Avila.
Avila.
Man. We'll be back right after this.